Hello and welcome to Purl and Plume, a knitting podcast. My name is Kelly, also known as Kiki Carlisle on Ravelry, Kiki Carlisle on Instagram. It's been a while since I had a proper episode. I produced a quick episode a little while back with just really quick rundown of some finished objects. Didn't even put a title in, didn't edit it, felt kind of like it was ridiculous, but whatever, left it out there. So today I'm trying to be a little more deliberate with things, and I have quite a bit to show you, and I may have covered one of the sweaters in that little mini episode, but because I didn't really do much describing, it wasn't really thorough. I don't really care. So I'm going to look in my notes. Here's my little notebook. My sister made that print. So cute. So don't remember what episode number it is. Think it might be 11, 12. I don't know. First thing I'm going to talk about is my Spark Cardi by Andrea Mowry, also known as Drea Renee Knits. I knit it in Magpie Fibers Twilight Honey and Spin Cycle Yarns Rusted Rainbow. Don't know if I talked about it, but you know what? If I did, this bears repeating. Love this. So you can tell I love this kind of color. I love golden. I love jewel tones, and I love autumnal tones. They make me happy. I've always liked yellow, but I like deeper, richer yellows, is what I'm finding. So this is a Dreamy Cardigan. Let me stand up and give you a better view. Move the chair a little. Okay, it's one of the more finished pieces that I've made. There's a belt. There's this garter shell collar. I love a garter shell collar. It's squishy, it's cozy, and it's really a relaxing knit. Kind of wish I had made pockets, but that's okay. And as you can see, the rusted rainbow, that color shift is amazing. I didn't replicate it equally on both sleeves. That's fine with me. It's close enough. I didn't want it to be too crazy different, and I succeeded. The one thing I think I'm going to do is get some kind of metal clasp, because I really want it to stay closer to my body when I belt it, and it opens up here. That's probably more me. I didn't do a gauge swatch. This is an incredibly warm sweater, and I loved knitting with the Magpie Fibers and the Spin Cycle yarn. And the Magpie Fibers, the nest, is like my favorite kind of yarn. I do think I'm more of a DK weight lover, and I think this is worsted, but it is woolly and definitely like sheepy and still soft, but not so soft that it feels like merino. It's just, I don't even know. I don't think it's merino. Pretty sure it's not. Love it. The color is to die for. This does not give it any justice. It is heathered, so it has this depth, right? And it is like when I go outside, I feel like it's glowing. I'm glowing. My sweater's glowing. And that plus the spin cycle rusted rainbow is amazing. So I made a mistake on this sweater. I am silly in that I sometimes, well, I don't know if it's silly. I can be a little bit lax with staring at the pattern and really following patterns. When it gets to things like sleeves or things that I feel like, okay, there's nothing crazy going on here, I'm just going to go with it. So I made the sleeves insanely long. And I think it's partly because they did block out quite a bit. I mean, I'm not going to redo it. I really just don't think I ever will. I'm going to be honest. Like, okay, guys, look. So this detail is beautiful. We should really like to see that, right? But it's covered up by, sorry, my ring is getting stuck. Stupid ring. it's covered up by the ribbing. Or the wrong ring to be doing this. Which I do like a long sleeve most of the time. I do want a long sleeve. I'm not a bracelet sleeve kind of girl. And so, but it's just a shame because it does cover up this beautiful detail at the cuff. However, I went for a walk yesterday with my sisters, and it was kind of borderline whether I should be wearing this and my vest. So I had this on and a down vest. And my sister said to me, "Oh my God, your fingers must be freezing. You don't have mittens." Nope, they were toasty. They were almost too warm at one point because I just did this as we were walking. So this is an amazing sweater. I love it. Love it. It is something I often put on in the morning when it's chilly and I'm coming downstairs. Like I said, it's soft enough to be next to the skin, but it is a woolly, rich, delightful yarn. I don't usually spend so much money on yarn. It was kind of an indulgence, and I'm glad I did it. With the leftover Twilight Honey, and I did have most of a skein left over, I think, or maybe a whole skein, because I have more. I didn't even use it all. I made this hat. This is the Norwegian Star Pattern hat. It is a free hat on Ravelry. And I should tell you who designed it. And I didn't write that down. I have not blocked this yet. And it will look better when it's blocked. And I actually made it months ago and really should have Basic Norwegian Star Pattern Hat by Kara Jo Knapp on Ravelry. It is free. Great, simple hat. If you want to do a little bit of color work, but you don't want to do crazy color work, and you want a nice little hat. So when this is blocked out, I think this up here will relax a little. Super cute. And I got to use up more of my Magpie Fibers Twilight Honey yarn, which is probably my favorite color. Yeah, and the black was Barocco Ultra Alpaca. So there we go. And I had made, what did I make with that? I made my dad a hat with Barocco Ultra Alpaca in 2 different colors. And in fact, it's on my Instagram, the hat I made with my dad, for my dad. I'll show it to you sometime. A picture. So yeah, this is the basic Norwegian Star, and it is on Ravelry, free pattern. Okay, so sticking with the hat theme and finished objects, I will go to this. So a sweater that I believe is in my last episode. Yeah, so I definitely talked about this one, if I talked about the last one. I definitely talked about this, because I'm pretty sure I talked about the Jennifer Steingass Knit Love Wool Arboreal sweater. I had some of this Fiber Company Cumbria left. I tend to not use all the yarn that's required in patterns. I think because my gauge is usually a little off, and I also am scared of not having enough, so I sometimes even buy an extra skein, which I probably should stop doing. But another favorite color. It's lighter and brighter than the Twilight Honey, but it is, again, glowing yellow. I literally look at this and it's like therapy. And again, this is a little softer than the Nest Worsted. They're both soft enough, don't get me wrong. But again, it's a little bit heathered. There's a depth to the color that is just amazing. And it's still woolly. So Fiber Company Cumbria, I think this is like my desert island yarn, and it's worsted. And I feel like I'm more of a DK person, but I love it. So I made the Neon Ski hat. It is another free pattern in Ravelry. And again, why don't I have it written down? Who did it? Neon Ski hat. So I was really excited about this because I am all about having costumes or uniforms for doing certain things. And oh, it's the Neon Ski bonnet pattern, excuse me, by Lacey Volk on Ravelry. So I got cross-country skis this year and I really wanted an outfit. So I made this. And then my husband was like, it's probably gonna be too hot anyway for most of the time when we ski because you're really working hard. And I haven't actually worn it skiing. Because it doesn't fit perfectly, but I still love it. Okay, so here's why it doesn't fit perfectly. First of all, I should have made these longer. I think I made them to pattern, but to pattern, is that what we say? I think that's what we say. But I should have made them longer because I just feel like these should be longer. Okay, and then look at that. It just kind of opens up there a little. It's not that comfortable, but I mean, really, it's so freaking cute. So I made this with the fiber company Cumbria. This is a free pattern, so I can tell you kind of about it in some detail here. Such a cool, fun knit. You start off by knitting this cable panel. It's not just a panel, it's a tube, okay? And as you're knitting it, you can put your hand in it and think, oh my God, these would be the most amazing fingerless mitts. And if I was a way faster knitter, I would have just made some matching fingerless mitts because this fits my arm, this panel. It's a tube. When you finish the tube, you pick up stitches along the top of it and you begin this really cool pattern here, which I messed up on. And I didn't fix because I don't think you'll notice it, especially if I'm wearing it and I'm moving around. Okay. And this looks fancy and it's really simple. It's knitting and purling and doing some of those, I can't remember what it's called when you wrapping. So you're wrapping the yarn and then you're slipping it between needles, but it's super, super easy. And then you do some decreases. And then at the very end, before you do this is the last bit is this garter panel. And right before you knit it, you're almost done. You're like, this doesn't actually make any sense. This is weird looking. But then you pick up stitches along what you've made at the bottom and you knit this garter panel and it all kind of comes together. I actually added some, I bound off and then went back and picked up stitches on my bind off to widen the garter panel because it ended up being just not deep enough. And so, I mean, it's one of the reasons I wouldn't give this away is because it just, there's some little details that are kind of iffy, but it's still so cute. I love it. I am going to wear it. I might go back and make longer tassels or longer ties with tassels. I actually think it would be really cute if there were pom-poms at the bottom too, like mini ones. But I don't want to break into this yarn just for that. So if I find another, I'm keeping this. I'm making something with this. I love it so much. If I find another project to do this with and there's a little extra, I will go back and do this. I also might just give it to my sister because she really likes it. I just don't think it's perfect enough to give away. The other thing I'm going to do is I am expecting a shipment of buttons soon. And I am going to fasten a button under the pom-pom here to stabilize it because it's a little wonky. It's a little too floppy. So yeah, this is the Neon Ski Bonnet by, I already said, Lacey Volk. Free pattern on Ravelry. Highly recommend. Doesn't fit perfectly. Fits pretty darn good. And I think that that's just the way it is with bonnets. They're not designed, they have a very different schematic than regular hats, and so it's just a whole different ball game. So I think it fits well enough. It's just not for the coldest days. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is this, and I think I did talk about this. No, skipping that. I'm gonna go to this hat, and I'm not going to say that much except it's just a stripy hat made with scrap yarn. And I've made a few of these, and all I do is cast on around 70 stitches, knit rib, keep adding stripes till I get to about 6 inches. Then I do some decreases and I keep trying it on, and then I'm done. And I just think it's a really great scrappy project. I actually don't love this. I don't know what I was thinking when I picked out the colors, but you know what? It's warm. It used up some scrap yarn, and I'm of the mind that having a few extra hats is not a bad thing. There's always going to be that time when quarantine ends, especially when people are visiting and they don't have a hat. At least that's the way my life is. It's cold where we live. Extra hats are not a bad thing. Okay. So next, I just want to briefly talk about this shawl I made that is kind of a wonky shape. And maybe I mentioned it in the last episode, but I don't know if I did. So I'm going to talk about it. So this was supposed to be like maybe a crescent shape, and it is not any kind of shape. But what's fun about it is, again, I used scraps, and at the end I did a crochet border in black Barocco alpaca, ultra alpaca, and I think it kind of tied it all in. I marled fingering weight yarn all throughout. I have mostly garter, but then some lace. See the lace? And a few rows of bubbles. So it was kind of fun to add some bubbles here. Got a row there, and then where's my other row of bubbles? Here, this turquoise row, or this aqua row has bubbles in it. And I put tassels at the end, and it is just a very warm and fun shawl that I actually hardly ever use. But it kind of sits around, and it's, you know, we can call it a schlanket, I think, because it's almost like a blanket. So anyway, kind of fun way to use scrap yarn. I should make more of them and just give them away. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the merriment cardigan and bonnet. And it was a gift, and I gave it to my niece, and so I don't have it. But I am going to insert merriment. I'm going to insert a video. It's just a quiet video of me opening the bonnet, showing you the sweater. It is by Melinda Bernardi, and by also known as French Press Knits. And here is a picture. I have, it's just so much. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to insert a video. Hopefully that works. And you'll hear, and you'll be able to see it, at least the one I made. I made it with Cloudborne fibers. This has tons of fibers on it. in their superwash merino worsted twist, in this bright red color. I don't know what it's called. It's very classic red. And then in a cream, and then in a dark brown. And I use superwash because my niece is just over 1 year old, and I did not want her mom to have to worry about it getting messy, or, you know, having to hand wash a precious item. So yeah, this is covered with stuff, but I have a whole skein left. I got this at Webb's. It was so inexpensive. It was a very inexpensive knit. I think this was like $5 a skein, maybe less. Yeah, and so a Christmas bonnet and sweater for my niece, and hopefully that will be inserted. Here's the bonnet. Got little ties here, and it's like this, and it's got some steeking, so some flannel that Nana put in. Okay, and here's the cardigan with buttons and flannel on the steeking and the button bands. Super cute. It's got these buttons here. I can put this one on. I'm sure I can. Anyway, cute. I'm not gonna put it on. Yeah, there we go. Very cute. I'm back. So here we are. I have an almost finished project that I want to share, that I'm very excited about. I am blocking it right now, and I will show it to you. It is the Vega cardigan by Kajia Vuorella. I totally messed up that name. I'm so sorry. Kaya, Casa, Vuorella. The Vega cardigan. She is also known as Tornedalsfrun. I love how I add an accent that's probably totally off when I say things. I followed her and saw this in the designing, in the process, and was basically waiting, trying not to hold my breath for it to come out, because I saw it and it just spoke to me. Okay, this is a cardigan made with Lopi yarn, bulky weight Lopi, which is, I believe, an Icelandic 100% wool. It is not super expensive, even in the US. I know it's much cheaper in the Nordic countries. It is pretty itchy. And some people couldn't even stand to wear. I won't be probably wearing it next to my skin much, but that's fine with me. It's very warm. And it is beautiful. It comes in lots of shades of heathered, gorgeous colors. I saw this and was drawn to it because, one, it was a cardigan. I haven't made a lot of cardigans. I just finished the Merriment cardigan for my niece, and there were buttons on it, button bands, and buttons and buttonholes. Somehow intimidated me. I made that cardigan, and I thought, this is freaking easy. I'll do this again. And then the design. It's like this simple, boxy, kind of cropped cardigan. Very simple, with this glorious color work on the shoulders, so you can see in the picture, and this beautiful finished collar. I love the color. She used black. It looks like a black and like a silvery heather. It comes in, I think, a lot of sizes. 8 sizes. I should be better about keeping track of that. I just was super excited. So I got my yarn. I picked 2 colors of the Lopi that was recommended in the pattern, but you could use different bulky weight yarns. I used, I believe, sheep sorrel and light ash heather. They have numbers on the tags, but they don't actually have the name. So I looked it up online, and I'm pretty sure those are the colors I used. So mine is on the blocking mats, and I will pull that out and show you. Here we go. It's kind of hard to see. The light is not being very kind to us right now. So you've got this collar here that is made in a very interesting way. You use a toe-up sock cast on for it. I think Judy's Magic, maybe. I'm not really sure, but basically the top is you end up folding it over. I don't think you can see anything because it's so dark. Yeah, so you can see that's the collar there. Here it is in all its glory, and it's so dark. I will be showing more of that when it is a complete FO. I don't have the buttons. I ordered them. Funny story, I actually made buttons for it because I had that moment where I thought that was something I could do. And then they came out of the oven. Well, first of all, that's lopsided and crazy, but that's sometimes that's how I do things at first, and then I realize how foolish I'm being. took them out of the oven. I made these with Fimo. Took them out of the oven. My husband looked at them and said, "You can't use those." And I was like, I know. I wasn't even mad at him. He was right. I mean, this is freaking hideous. Okay. This is fine for a craft project. This is fine if you are like living in the wilderness. You somehow have like oven baking clay and you need buttons. This is not fine for a hand knit wool garment that you will have forever and hand down to your progeny. Okay. But this was handy, and I'll tell you why. So I ordered buttons from a small shop on Etsy. I did go to my local yarn store. They were they were super overpriced, and I didn't really like any of them. And I wanted something very simple. And I also am being pretty careful about shopping and going places, so I also wasn't going to be shopping around for them. Okay, I'm not going to lots of stores. I go to the yarn store and I go to the grocery store right now. And I barely go to the yarn store. So here's why these were handy to make. These are the size that I need. They are 25 millimeter, which I think is about an inch, okay? And I used them to make sure that my buttonholes were the right size. Because you kind of want the button when you're making the buttonhole, unless you are going to just buy a bunch of different buttons and make sure you find one that works. So I was able to fit one of these through each of my buttonholes. So I know this is the right size. I know my buttonholes are the right size. So I ordered some buttons from an Etsy shop. And I don't know when they're going to get here. Until then, I will probably just wear it without buttons because that's the way I roll. I'm not going to wait. It is blocking and it will probably take a couple days. Hopefully not. I'll keep it by the fire. I just have to be careful because of my cats. They will lie down on that thing faster than you can say, "Cat, don't lie down on it." Okay. So I think that's it for now for finished objects. I probably have more. And I just am not super organized. And that's okay. Oh, I did want to talk a little bit about knitting with Lopi. And then when I'm done and I talk about it and it's been blocked, in next episode I will talk about how it blocked out because it's already looking so lovely. It's just plumping up and kind of filling in, which is what you want when something blocks. So I will say that I am someone who moisturizes a lot. I'm a good moisturizer. I use coconut oil. I use other oils. Like I make my own oil to use on my body. And I needed to have... This is Burt's Bees hand salve. I mean, I make similar things on my own. This was a Christmas gift a few years ago. I needed to have this around because, especially with the holidays and all the cooking and baking and the washing of the hands and the, and the dry air and the fire being on, we have a Jerry fire, so we literally turn it on with the remote control. It came with the house. Okay, don't judge. And then the Lopi yarn is it's pretty rough to knit with, so I would often make sure my hands were nice and moisturized up freshly before knitting with it, because it is kind of scratchy feeling and uncomfortable if your skin is dry. So I would just say, just keep that in mind. Keep some nice lotion or ointment in your knitting bag if you're going to knit with Lopi. I don't even have super sensitive skin, and I just felt like that was helpful for me. The other thing is people say to not use metal needles, and or I've read that somewhere that it's not as helpful because they're so sharp and they can kind of separate the yarn, and I did not find that to be a problem. I use my Chow interchangeables, which are quite sharp, and they're metal, and they're really my favorite needles. I prefer metal needles, and I prefer sharp needles, and they were fine for me. But I've also done a lot of knitting, so I think that's all for that. So I will talk about whips now. Did I get everything? Oh, you know what? I didn't get everything, but darn it. I forgot one thing, and I'm just not going to bother talking about it. It's fine. So, next thing I'm going to talk about are my whips. I think I forgot were my leg warmers. I made a pair of 2x2 very simple rustic wool leg warmers, and I've been wearing them a lot. So these are the Melancholy Thistle mittens, and by Anne Murr, also known as Piniguri. Melancholy Thistle mittens. I don't think I gave anything away by showing that. And I thought, oh, they're sad thistles, but it's actually a type of thistle. Okay. It's not that they're sad mittens, even though that's okay if they were. I kind of, at the time, thought it made sense that I was knitting them. So, and then I realized, oh, it's just actually the type of thistle. It's called a melancholy thistle. What's funny is I've always loved the thistle motif. I'm not even very Scottish in heritage, but I think it's beautiful. I think thistles are beautiful. And I had wanted a pair of thistle mittens for some time now. And why? I don't know. I probably saw a pair of thistle mittens somewhere and thought they were beautiful. And so I am knitting these, and I'm almost done, and there's really no excuse for me to not have finished them by now. I've made a couple little mistakes with the color work because I was multitasking, but you can't really notice it. And I have to say, I love them. I don't, it's funny, I kind of wish I had chosen different colors because I'm really not in the purple gray mood right now. Right now my hand is on fire. It's so hot in this thing. So it has this beautiful thistle motif on the front, and then it has thistle buds on the inside, and then the thumb is like this little, the stems. Isn't that lovely? I love that idea. Okay, so I didn't do the Latvian braid on the bottom. I want to do a Latvian braid, and now what I wish I had done is like done it and then added ribbing underneath it, like maybe had the braid here, because I wanted it to hug my wrist better. And what I do love about this design is that it's kind of long. You know, it does come down. That's nice. So I think for my next pair I will do the braid. So here's my second one, and honestly, I could finish these today, and I will, maybe. Here we go. Second one. I am knitting this with more of that Cloudborn fibers because there was such a big sale. I'm knitting it with two different kinds of Cloudborn fibers, and I don't have the names of them, but I will say that here they are. Why I caked this up and not this one, I think this was in a like a twist, and this one was already in a kind of ball. So it's this plummy, heathered plummy color, and then this heather gray, which I think has alpaca in it. And I'm carrying the plum with this merino that I hand dyed myself. So it's very dark and very light and like lots of variegation and even some like reddish bits. And I'm holding the gray also with a merino. Mohair. Did I say merino? These are mohair. So that makes a very warm mitten without having to knit a liner. And we'll see, because that is my question. If I hold mohair all throughout with the main color and the contrasting color, does it make a mitt that's the warmest mitten? Or do I need to make a really warm mitten? To make a really warm mitten, do I need to make a liner? It might be that I need to make a liner. So there we go. These are not for a cool day. These are for a cold day. And they're beautiful. The next project I want to talk about is my koivua sweater by Boyland Knitworks. This is a sweater that I started knitting a couple years ago. Bought the pattern, loved it. It's very different looking, and it's color work, which is my favorite. And I just was like super psyched about knitting it, and I picked like a dark green and this color changing yarn, and I just didn't like the way it was looking. So I decided to, oh, sorry, I'm looking for it in here. So I decided to undo it, and I just left it for a while. But I sorry. But I recently started again. The yarn I'm using is Barocco Ultra Alpaca with in two colors, in a cream and in a brown. Here they are. Here's the cream. Here's the brown. I really love Barocco Ultra Alpaca. I wish the light was better. You could see there's like, there's a nice halo because it's 50% alpaca and 50% wool. There's so many colors available. It's a decent price point for a really good, I think, really good yarn that has held up well in many projects of mine. Yeah, so this is the Koivua by Boylan Knitworks, also known as Caitlin Hunter, and here is a nice picture of it. Nice-ish, because can you really see anything on my phone? There you go. So it is an all-over colorwork sweater with also some texture, made with just purl and knit. No cables, just like alternating purl and knit stitch. And it is, the way it's designed, it's, I don't know if she calls it cropped, or if it's just, it kind of hits at the hip. And then it has these beautiful sleeves that are kind of bell sleeves. They get cinched at the end. And I am on the first sleeve, and here it is. And it's got some short rows in the back. I have blocked this, which is why it looks so nice. And I wanted to block it before I started the sleeves because I was noticing that the purl bumps here and here were kind of, the texture parts were really sticking out in an awkward kind of way. And I didn't want it to, I didn't like the way it looked, but I also was pretty sure it would block out, and it did. So I did use my blocking mat and some pins. I might not have needed to. I might have just relaxed on its own, but I wanted to ensure that before I started the sleeve. And sure enough, it's fine. I have modified this a little. What have I done? I did all the texture, the first bits of texture, but with the second one, I kind of stopped. Honestly, I was lazy and bored. I didn't mean to modify the color work here, but it looks different because I made a mistake. It's supposed to be a series of V's, and I think two things happened. One, I made some mistakes with order. I will blame that on some holiday imbibing. Okay. But I also used the white as the dominant. So I used the white yarn in my left hand instead of the brown. And I did that because I felt like it could be either or, because there was so much white and so much brown in this area. But that definitely shifts how a pattern looks. And sometimes it shifts it in a surprisingly big kind of way. So I looked around to see, does anyone do this? And no, most people have the pretty obvious V's down here. But there were a couple that were a little less obvious. And I think, whatever, I'm leaving it because it still looks like a pattern. It's not that noticeable. And I don't want to go back and do it. I'll just be honest. I think when all said and done, and the sleeves, which are really a distinctive part of this sweater design, when the sleeves are done, I don't even think I will be noticing it. Okay, so that's the Koivua Ultra Alpaca again. Love that. Oh, look at, my cat is literally delivering my leg warmers. Those are the leg warmers. My cat's delivering them to me. I couldn't have planned that. Thank you, sweetums. Guys, Kato picks up any smallish item in this house and puts it in other places. These are the leg warmers I was going to tell you about. You're welcome. Thank you. Good job. You did a good job. I made these out of a rustic wool yarn. I think it is probably a worsted weight. I cast on, I think, 72 stitches. Does that sound right? I'm putting it on my head because that's what I did for a hat. So maybe the hat was much more. Doesn't add up. And I'm kind of confused by that. Well, I cast on down here, and I just did 2x2 rib. And then at a certain point, I did add some more stitches. I wanted them to kind of be fitted. I have pretty muscly calves. And so, yeah, right about here, I added another set of knit stitches, and I did it one at a time. I didn't do it all at once. And then I kind of just doubled it. I made a second one just the same way. I just looked at the first one. I wear these all the time. I wear them running. Kind of want to make another pair, but make them longer. Although these are nice and small. Definitely small enough for Kato to deliver to me mid-podcast recording. It's crazy. Okay, so, yeah, that's... I don't think you need a pattern really for leg warmers. You can look at free sock patterns and it's really just the top of a sock, and those are worsted or bulky weight. You can find free bulky weight or worsted weight patterns on Ravelry and use that kind of stuff. So, there's not too much left to talk about. I have a couple things I need to mend. These fingerless mitts that were machine made and given to me a while back. And really, there are just some holes in these. Some pretty big holes. But I think I'm going to attempt to fix them. My husband, one of his gifts was a promise to knit him a pair of socks this year. And he wanted dark brown, dark blue, or dark gray. No stripes. Nothing. I find that boring. But I'm going to do it because I love him. I did put in this very fine small print at the bottom that I had like a year to make them. Which probably wasn't a good idea for me. So he picked this. I went to the webs, and it's so dark, and bought 3 skeins of Cascade Yarns Heritage 75/25 sock yarn in dark brown, dark blue, and dark gray. I might return the other 2. I might keep them because I do want to make myself some socks, and I want to make myself DK weight socks with 2 strands of sock yarn held together, marled. And I have some self-striping sock yarn that I think would be great held together with just a solid. So that's my plan for that. I do have one other work in progress that I could talk about, that I should talk about, because it might keep me accountable. And that is my sweater for my stepdaughter. She wanted an all over cabled sweater, and I said I don't think that will ever happen, or at least not anytime soon. So I said, how about all over ribbed, which is still a lot. And here it is. I'm not using a design because I couldn't really find one for the yarn weight and everything. I did find a design on Purl Soho for a fingering weight version, just because I wanted to know, how do you make increases in a raglan sweater? So that's what I used that for. And here it is. I am about to separate for the sleeves. It is very simple crew neck, raglan. I have a stitch marker on here that she made. She actually made me earrings one year out of Fimo clay with all these different foods, and they were so cool, and I would wear them every time we had MCAS testing for my students. I'd wear a different crazy pair of like food earrings every day. I'm sure it really cheered them up a lot and made testing like nothing at all. Just kidding. But, you know, it's the little things. And I've turned them into stitch markers and progress keepers because I don't wear them that often. And of course we didn't have MCAS testing last year. And we probably won't this year because pandemic. That is noon, by the way. Noon tabs. Okay, vitamin tabs and stuff. So I am knitting this in Knit Picks Swish worsted weight in this Dove Heather colorway. It is super soft. It is machine washable. She is a teenager. Need I say more? I need to finish the sweater. It was going to be for her birthday in October. Then it was going to be for Christmas. But part of the problem is she really needs to try it on a lot. And that can be hard. Okay. I think that's it for now. I'm hoping that this year I can upload an episode a month. I think that's doable. I certainly have enough knitting content to do that. Yeah, until then, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And happy knitting and all the best. Bye. Good morning. Time to feed the girls. Time to wake up my little princesses. They're already awake. I can hear them very slightly. Oh, girls. Girls, is it time to wake up? Wake up, girls. Wake up, babies. Go. Just a little bit here. Oh boy, I didn't notice that. It rained yesterday. And it's been chilly. And I don't think... Hi, good morning. Good morning, Junie. Good morning, Gilly. Good morning, Weedy and Joe. Come on, girls. Good morning, Egret. Good morning, Mitzi. Come on out. Come on out, Mitz. Good morning, Kit. Hi, Kitty. Good morning, Suze.